Yo, 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 yo. What up, boys and girls, potentially? It's your boy, Zizi Honcho. Usually host a Tuesday show, but today I'm filling in for Jalen, so whatever. Gifted is in the building alongside with me. Jalen will be here in a few. Gifted,
What's
tell
good?
me
What's good,
how you
people? How's
doing.
everybody feeling, man? Welcome to Front of Logo episode.
I
Jesus
think
Christ, I don't even know at this
20,
point. 13?
no, it's like 28, bruh.
Damn, we've been cooking up. We've been cooking up a little bit.
Yeah,
Okay, word,
13. Yo, but anyway,
word up.
as y'all can see from the title of the show, can Jokic and Luka stop the new faces of the NBA? Now we're gonna wait to get to that, once Jalen gets in here because he's the one that picked that title. So I just want to know who he thinks are the potential other faces of the NBA or new faces. But we can start off with my boy Keem. You got it right. Not BBL Drizzy. That's not. I clicked the wrong thing.
We are not starting this
Um,
shit out with BBL Drizzy. Hell
I'm
no.
sorry. Frank Vogel, fired, gifted. Now look, I don't know if you saw it, but I caught it probably like an hour ago, maybe hour
Yeah.
or two. And my initial react, because I was at work, typing away, my phone goes off, and then I read it and I see Frank Vogel, and I said, yo, open it up, immediately knew what it was. So tell me your initial reactions to Frank Vogel getting fired after one season.
Frank Vogel is a scapegoat.
Yep.
He's also not a great coach, but he's not a bad enough coach to where he shouldn't be a head coach in the NBA. I do think he's a pretty solid coach. I feel like fundamentally from the very beginning, they did not hire him in good faith. I think they had a roster that had weaker players on the defensive end in general, and they expected Frank Vogel to come in and spearhead that roster to be a very good roster. I think the front office is doing this because, hey, someone has to take the fall. It's not really going to be the front office until it's a repeated pattern, so that's not going to happen. And Frank Vogel's the guy. Maybe they're trying to fool themselves into thinking, well, we have a better coach with Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. Maybe we can go further. Frank Vogel did not have the pulse of the locker room, according to the Athletic article that I read. So I'm pretty sure that factored into it as well. But overall, I don't think he is the sole reason why the Suns are the Suns. I think the roster construction is why the Suns are the Suns. I feel like when you have a defensive minded coach who's not that great offensively, your job should be to put the best offensive minds around him to make it easier on that end and maybe get him at least some better utility players defensively. And the Suns just straight up did not have that. So to me, I think he will 100% go to another team. As a Golden State Warriors fan, listen, man, come through, Frank. Associate defense, we have not had a guy filling
Yeah.
there since Mike Brown. So I got my arms open, but it's tough, man. And I know a lot of people are going to be like what's the conversation on KD? I don't think there's a conversation. KD is a guy that wants to win titles. And when he's in situations and they don't win, because he is the draw, because he is the star, they're going to fire coaches. It kind of is what it is. I mean, we saw the same thing with Giannis. When you have a star player, you'll lie to yourself and cut all the trim around them if you can't build a good enough roster. So I'm not sure what the conversation is going to entail there, but Frank Vogel definitely deserves another shot somewhere else. Head coach, or even if he's on the side of another head coach, I do believe he is a pretty good defensive mind in our league.
I will say I agree with you on the point specifically about how you brought in a defensive minded coach and you gave him Bradley Beal to work with and
Yeah.
Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and Yusuf Nurkic and I guess Grayson Allen until he got hurt. And then you had Eric Gordon off the bench. And then Bol and like so for me, I thought that it was a questionable acquisition from the start when they gave him the head coaching spot, but I thought I was under the assumption at least that they would try to find a way to get him some defensive pieces. When you look at the Suns team going forward specifically, like in the next 10 years, they don't have any draft capital, don't have any trade picks or anything. They're just in hell in terms of making moves or what moves they can make. On top of that, they're paying 150 million damn dollars to the big three that they can't get any help for. So they're just going to be good enough to probably get bounced out early in the playoffs multiple times in the next foreseeable future. So, given all of that, a head coach that they apparently are looking for or looking into is Mike Budenholzer. I love Coach Bud. Don't think that he's going to be able to be the answer for this team. Be completely honest with you. I don't think that there's any coach that's going to be the answer for this team because, as far as I'm concerned, that roster construction is the way that it is this year. It's not really going to move much next year. They won't really have enough wiggle room to move much next year to get them something, which is a lot that they need: defensive identity, a point guard, whatever. They brought in Isaiah Thomas for no reason, just for shits and giggles. So I don't think there's any coach that's going to be able to save the Phoenix Bombs. I genuinely don't.
I think Mike Bud is a pretty good pick. I feel like as a system coach, he's able to craft a good system. I believe he's another case of a very good regular season coach. He's a guy that can craft a pretty solid defense, and also I think his offensive principles are probably better than Frank Vogel's. But in terms of a coach that can think quickly and make quick adjustments in the playoffs, he's not really proven that outside of his championship run. And even then, he's had multiple other postseasons where he doesn't make changes required. So I think in terms of crafting a system, he could probably work out better. But in terms of being like their guy to, floor raise them over the defensive gaps of his team, I just feel like they're going to still have a problem because, again, roster construction in the NBA is what matters the most. You need a coach that can create a good enough system, be a people person that the players can rock with, learn from, and, buy into their system. But outside of that, once the system is the system, you just rolling. But the players in the system matter more than the actual system itself. So that kind of matters. And also, like, it's going to be tough because they can't make any moves. They're currently above the second apron, so they can't even trade one of the big three if they wanted to. Also, Bradley Beal, no trade clause. They're going to have to make moves on the margin to improve this roster, and I just don't know at all what that looks like, to be honest.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing, and this is why when we were talking about super teams a few episodes back, the idea of it is just dead. Like the parity that it once had, I knew, probably 3-4 years ago in terms of like, betting odds telling us that the Lakers with Russ and AD and LeBron are going to win the championship. And then you looked across in the Eastern Conference and KD was having his big three. So it's like you looked at that and you were just like, I don't like this direction that the league is going in thinking that they need a big three and they're going to buy all in and F the rest of the roster. You see what I'm saying? Like it's that method has not worked. We talked about it before. The last successful super team was the Golden State Warriors. That was the last successful one. The one before that was the Miami Heat. And it wasn't even the Miami Heat the first year they got constructed. It was the second year. The Warriors added Kevin Durant. They went in the first year and back. They went back to back, right? So and you look at the roster and you said to yourself, okay, they have other pieces to where it's pretty much the equivalent of 2016 Warriors, where Steph could afford to play 3 quarters and sit the whole fourth. Because they had Kevin, you see what I'm saying? Because they had Kevin Durant out there. So that just helped that situation even more. And then they still had the intangibles, the Sean Livingstons, the David West of the world. You see what I'm saying? Like they had all of the right things that you needed on the back end of whatever that big three, in the Warriors case, big 5, I guess, 4 was. So Phoenix doesn't have that. They don't have that at all. Not only do they not have an identity, they don't have a coach, they don't have a defensive identity, they don't have picks, they don't have draft capital, they don't have trade value. Even if you like their first and second round picks, good lord, it's just terrible. It's a terrible situation. So let's move on from Frank Vogel though, and let's move into what else we got. So another thing. Wait a second. Hold up. Just got it. Oh wait, no. This is Mike Budenholzer is emerging as the favorite. F you, Woj. Anyway, let's move forward. So another headline I guess we can talk about is Patrick Beverley is going to be suspended 4 games straight to start next season, and he's banned from ESPN for life. So that's tough. But
that's a lot.
That's a lot, bro.
That's a
and
lot.
he got to start the playoffs. It's a lot. Bro's going through it. So if you haven't subscribed to his podcast, don't subscribe. You ain't missing much. He's getting beat by tennis podcasts, so it is what it is. Gifty, you got any response to that?
Not really, to be honest. I don't really think that there's much there. I don't like that he got 4 games for that, because I mean the fan caught the ball. I mean,
Yeah.
4 games feels like a lot for that overall interaction. Meanwhile, Jamal Murray doesn't get a game. Obviously, he's a higher level player, so that's probably why they chose to not suspend Jamal Murray, in a must-win game of the playoffs. So I hear that, but it's just constant double standards with what the NBA does in terms of rules and whatnot. So I mean, I'll leave it alone, but that's a lot of games, man. I don't think Patrick Beverley is like some crazy villain like Dylan Brooks or something like that. Pat's just Pat. 4 games is really doing the most, in my opinion.
Yeah, Pat is just Pat. That's a good way to look at it. The way I see it is like you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Nick Wright,
yeah, that's fair too.
Nick Wright's breakdown of the last 5 years for Patrick Beverley. I watched that shit 3 times in a row just to make sure that I got everything, because that man dissected Patrick Beverley in a short minute time span. But when you really look at it, like the more and more that Patrick Beverley does that most out of pocket stuff, is the more and more that I look back on Russ's comments when he said Pat Bev be tricking y'all. He just be out there running around. Now, considering that Russell Westbrook is where he is right now and Pat is where he is right now, I can still say that Russell Westbrook's better than Patrick Beverley. Or Russell Westbrook, I would rather have him on my team. But at the same time, when you look at Patrick Beverley and the reasons why I wouldn't want him on my team, he's been on 6 teams in the last 5 years. Do you remember that he was on the Magic at one point in that?
Sure do.
It's just you look at it from the moment that he said that the next 5 years were his, which to this day, I don't know what the hell. Like, I get confidence, I do, but like, of all people to tell Steph Curry, you had the last 5 years, the next 5 years of mine. Of all people in the league, even back then, think about emerging superstars. Like, imagine Anthony Edwards said that to Steph Curry. That would be believable for me. Like, okay, kid's averaging 26 a game.
Yeah.
All right, bet. Appreciate the confidence. Patrick Beverley, on the other hand, I'm like, is your job even secured for the Clippers at that point? It wasn't. Like, it was, and then he was gone like 2 years later. Like, what the hell? But to your point again, Jamal Murray, you got to look at it, bro. This is for all those who might be confused as to why Jamal, he didn't even get a slap on the wrist. That was like all right, now get out of here. Just come in the office, say you came in the principal's office, and then say that you left. Like, just so we can, say that you were here. And $100,000. That ain't shit. But the way I see it is like Jamal, it's politics like the WWE in the 90s, bro. Like, or look at Hulk. If Hulk Hogan did that, something equivalent to that, and then, who else? The Doink the Clown did it as well. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Hulk Hogan got power. He can get away with it. Doink the Clown, you suspended indefinitely. Patrick Beverley. So it's wild. But Jamal got away with one there. I think that the fact, we talked about it a little bit last episode, but the fact that Jamal, I'm going to ask you this question too.
Sure, what up?
Is Jamal Murray, and because I think Jamal, KCP, maybe even Jokic because he shot so bad the other night. But like, how do you think that core over there for Denver what do you think their mental is? Because even when Jamal Murray was asked about this days later, he said, "Can you ask me a basketball question?" They asked you a basketball question. You almost affected a basketball play with your actions. Like, what are you talking about? So, like, how do you think their mental state is going into Minnesota? Jamal's not suspended, but they down 0-2, and they just got their ass waxed. Like, what you think? How you think that they thinking right now?
Well, I think that they're down 0-2. I think that they know that their season is on the line. Their chances of trying to repeat are going to be questioned. And to me, this is a team that we've seen fight through real adversity. It's not the first time we've seen this Nuggets team get punched in the mouth. In the bubble, they had to come back down 3-1 twice. So It's like we've seen them be able to play under high pressure moments before. This Wolves team is still a young team. And they still have Jokic, who won an MVP this year, who for a lot of people has been the best player in basketball. So I think for them, they're locking in. I don't think Denver is going to be rattled. It's just going to come down to how are you going to execute? Can Jamal Murray overcome the stifling defense from Minnesota on the perimeter? And more importantly, can Minnesota continue to capitalize offensively in big spots? I think those are the questions. But in terms of the mental state, I think Denver's going to be just fine.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing too. I know I said T-Wolves in 6 last episode. I still think that that's going to happen because that defense was crazy. But if the Nuggets were to come back and win this series, it would literally have, because the way I'm looking at them right now is that they're somehow fragile.
Okay.
Maybe physically with Jamal Murray's calf strain or whatever, but also mentally based off of last game because this nigga was throwing heat pads and towels and everything and shot 3 for 18 from the field. Wild. Jokic 5 of 13. Wild. Like, so the way that I look at it is I find it interesting that it seems like the masses are all looking at this series and looking at Denver and they're just like, yeah, nah, if you think that Denver are going to come back, you delusional. I've seen a few comments like that. So, but the way I see it, if Denver were to come back and win this series based off of that start, man, I'm going to be like, all right, these are the champions that we've been thinking these are the people that we thought were going to win the championship all year long. You feel me?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's how I look at it. But
fair enough.
Someone just we'll get into this one. Who you got? Boston Celtics or Cavaliers this series?
I think you're going to say this series.
Boston.
Yeah, Boston.
Boston in 5. The only reason I say that, and it won't be a sweep, is because I believe that Donovan Mitchell will give me 45 and they will walk out barely. I can see Boston blowing like a 15-point lead because of a second half explosion, and then ISO Jason Tatum, ISO Jalen Brown. Donovan Mitchell wins by 3. So I can see that happening. But Celtics in 5, respectfully. My boy Rondé, what's good, bro? I love the profile picture. Yeah. So look, let's talk about MVP.
I'm with it. Let's go.
Let's talk about MVP. So Nikola Jokic, ladies and gentlemen, for anybody that's been living under a freaking rock, Nikola Jokic is a 3-time most valuable player. Nikola Jokic is now a 3-time MVP, a 1-time champion, a 1-time Finals MVP. This is a guy that when he won the championship, when he won his back-to-back MVP, I'll start there, is where we started to see the big man, the all-time big man conversation start to take a shift because people started to look into the direction of this kid that got drafted during a Taco Bell commercial.
Yep.
So now I'm looking at him as a 3-time MVP. There's only, I think, 9 or 6 other NBA players in NBA history with 3+ MVP or more than 2 MVPs, whatever. So Nikola Jokic is in big time company, man. Big time.
Big time, yeah.
And I'm giving him his flowers. Like Gifted said, I believe Nikola Jokic is also the best player in the world, right? At the same time, I'm pissed off that SGA ain't win that MVP. I'm pissed.
You pissed off about that?
I ain't even a Thunder fan. Let me tell you why I'm pissed off. I said, you can go back into our files, and I said on one of the episodes, if Nikola Jokic wins MVP, I won't be surprised. But if the Thunder end up with the 1 seed, I think Shai should win MVP. Now, granted, they were tied, whatever, but they still ended up with the 1 seed. And I said, looking at SGA, appreciated Irvin, looking at SGA, 30 points per game, 2 steals, second youngest team in the league, and I think the youngest 1 seed ever. So the way that I'm looking at Jokic, I was like, now, has he had a solid season? Yeah, 26, 12, and 8 or whatever it was. Yeah, solid. But we said at points this season, this Denver team don't look the same as it does last year. And you could attribute that to Jeff Green and Bruce Brown being gone, of course. But there were moments where we were like, something looks a little off there. But the Thunder, these guys that no one had as a top 3 seed this year, and let alone a 1 seed, out of nowhere, led by SGA, a guy that was involved in a trade that included him, Danilo Gallinari, and 6 other first-round picks. And the Thunder looked like they won that shit. Telling you right now, Clippers in Cancun again. So I was a little pissed off because I was like, I thought that, I didn't think that they had voter fatigue on Jokic. I knew Luka wasn't winning it. I knew that. So I was like, at least let SGA take the cake. Shit. They're not gonna give it to Tatum. Meanwhile, they got 64 wins, but we know why they're not giving it to Tatum. So at the end of the day, this is a Nikola Jokic that we've seen greatness from Nikola Jokic, but I think SGA deserved his flowers for a regular season award. That's just how I see it. Now you probably think Jokic deserved it, don't you?
Oh yeah, 100%. Jokic performed at an MVP caliber for the entire season, and there were moments where yes, Denver didn't look as good as Denver would look, and Jokic would still be the guy to get them to wins. Literally, this season, Jamal Murray got injured, and Jokic was still performing at an insanely high level. They only fell to the third seed because of late game heroics from Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs. Had they won that, I'm pretty sure they would be the 1 seed. And it's really like one game, so it's not that much of a difference. It would be different if you saw, okay, there's like a 5-game lead or maybe 8-game lead, whatever, but it's not. It's only one game. So for me, for Jokic to get it, I'm not surprised by. But Shai definitely performed like an MVP. I think Shai in a vacuum definitely had an MVP caliber season.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my thing with these awards and whatnot, right? Because Jokic to me deserved it in a vacuum. Just like when Joel Embiid won it, Jokic that year also deserved it in a vacuum, right? But just because he didn't get it doesn't mean we take it away from him. I just say that's the MVP season. Jokic had an MVP season 4 years in a row. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander this year had an MVP season. And you got to look at it to really give it value, because a lot of people define these awards and say, well, that's how good of a player you were. If you have no All-NBAs, you can't be that good of a player. But we know how good Jamal Murray can be when it matters in the postseason, right? Mm-hmm. We still understand that he's a good enough player. Same thing with, Kyrie, where he didn't make All-NBA this year, but we know how good of a player Kyrie is at his best. That just comes down to watching the game. So to me, Jokic deserved it, man. I mean, his numbers are really ridiculous. I know that you said, yeah, that's good, that's solid. He almost averaged a triple-double on crazy efficiency as a big man. Yeah, like near 70% true shooting. Like, there's not that many players in the league that can do what Jokic does consistently on a night-in, night-out basis as a decision-maker consistently.
You're right.
Just like Shai put up constant 30-point games, Jokic constantly gives you double-doubles, can constantly get you triple-doubles, and more than anything else, the decision-making in terms of winning the basketball game and willing his team to victory despite whoever is not there consistently every night, he brings that every night to the game. So him winning it, I'm all for it. I don't have any issue with it. I do think that Shai could have won it. He definitely had a real argument to win it, but that doesn't diminish Jokic winning it at all. I don't think it's a robbery at all. I just think Shai didn't win it, and people don't win shit. That's kind of what it is. I don't know.
No, I agree with you on a point of I'm not refuting Jokic winning the MVP at all, because you're right. He put together an MVP caliber season the same way that SGA did, same way Luka did, same way Joel would have continued to do had he not got hurt when he did. The one thing I will say though, in defense to Shai, is like you said, he's shooting his. I know the efficiency is crazy with Jokic, it always is, but SGA 54% from the field, the only guard in the league
Hooper.
The only guard in the league that shot higher than SGA this year was TJ McConnell on 600 less attempts than SGA. SGA was almost at 1,500 attempts in a season, shooting 54%, leading the youngest team in the league, second youngest, to the 1 seed in the West. That's all I'm gonna say. But it is what it is. Let's move forward. The New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers last night. Don't know if you were able to catch it, Gifted, but
I did watch the game. A lot happened in that game with Brunson's injury. The calls were questionable in spots. Josh Hart, I'm sorry. Josh Hart stands out to me more than anything else from that game. Josh Hart consistently plays 48 minutes a night in the regular season and the postseason, and is giving you damn near triple doubles in Hart, where he's consistently getting you 15 rebounds as a guard. A 6'4" guard is giving you 15 rebounds a game. If that's not Hart, I don't know what is, bro. Big shout out to Josh Hart. He's a hooper, man.
Big shout out to Josh Hart. I swear to you, if the Knicks by some miracle make it to the finals, I think Josh Hart could win a Finals MVP over Jalen Brunson. I'm
Oh,
not gonna
hell
cap to
no.
you.
Hell
I'm
no.
not gonna
You
cap to you.
see,
I'm not
listen,
gonna
you
cap to you,
went too
bro.
far. You went
I'm
too
not gonna
far.
cap
You
to you.
went too
Think about it like
far.
this.
You
Think about
went
it like
way
this.
too
Think about it like
far.
this. Think about it like this. Look.
What?
In no way, shape, or form am I trying to say that Josh Hart is better than Jalen Brunson. What I'm trying to say is, look, as a Warriors fan, I have seen with my own damn eyes a
Uh-huh.
situation in which the Warriors in 2015, Steph Curry was the only Warrior to average over 20 points,
Uh-huh.
let alone over 16 points. That's like
Mm-hmm.
bare minimum. And I saw that man in a pivotal game 5 drop, I think 35, 37 on Matthew Dellavedova after they said he was going to lock him up again.
Hooped.
Hooped.
Yep.
And that was the one that put him up 3-2 in the series. So it was tied. Steph showed up. So I was thinking, like, damn, that man going to walk away with the finals there. He got to. Iguodala gets
And
it.
it was bullshit.
And it was bullshit. Look,
That's
now
fine.
listen, in the case of Josh Hart, though,
That shit not
because
gonna happen again.
like you just said,
That shit, like
like you
no,
just
like
said.
what happened in 2015 makes me mad because it is an anomaly that I know for a fact will not happen again. They really chose to give the Finals MVP not to the best player on the best team. It went to Andre Iguodala. That shit will literally never happen again. For
Look,
Josh Hart to beat Jalen Brunson, Brunson got to be giving you like 13 points per game or some shit. There's no way Josh Hart will take that from Jalen Brunson in my
you didn't
mind.
let me.
I don't see it.
You ain't let
And I
me
love
finish,
Josh
bro.
Hart. I love
I know
Josh Hart,
you do.
bro.
I know you do.
He a
You ain't
hooper,
let me.
but no.
Yeah, you gotta let me finish. You gotta. I'm trying to get you to see my vision. Hold on. Just think about it.
Okay, all right.
I ain't gonna say Brunson got to average 13, but chat, help me out on this. Just think about the NBA and how sometimes the person that you think should win Finals MVP. Because let me break it down to you like this. Say the Knicks face off against the Timberwolves in the finals, right? That
Yeah.
defense versus the Knicks and whatever's left over from that team. Say Brunson's got to deal with Ant, got to deal with Nikola-Alexander Walker, got to deal with Jaden McDaniels. So say like maybe the first 3 games he's averaging like 23 on 42% shooting, right? And then he breaks out, or no, say the first 3 games he's averaging good numbers, right? And
Yeah.
then we'll say by game 4, 5, and 6, that's where he starts taking the slid. They changed up the matchups. Now Josh Hart playing 48 minutes and getting 15 rebounds, and he can score at times when given. I mean, shit, they left him open in Philly, and he knocked
No,
down that 3, and
yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, all right, bet. I thought you was because you remember that early in that series he hit that double clutch, and everybody was like, all right, well, he kind of is a fake shooter, and then he knocked down the open one. So I was like, all right, LeBron didn't even do that this year in the postseason, but whatever. The point I'm trying to make is he could go out there. Josh Hart could go out there and average up 15 boards, 18 points in that next stretch to be the difference maker if Brunson is struggling. And then the voters are going to be like, okay, well, he played 46 minutes a game and he led the league. He led the team in rebounds. I could totally see them doing that. Jalen Brunson has a few bad games. Same thing Steph did, even when he didn't win it in 2018, when I thought Steph should have won it over Kevin Durant, because in that 4-game stretch, Steph went stupid in 3 of those games, and he didn't. You see what I'm saying? Like, so, and they gave it to Kevin Durant. But in this moment, say you can't see the finals MVP voters being like, okay, because you had that bad game 4, that bad game 5, and because Josh Hart might have locked up Anthony Edwards for a stretch and had a 15-15 game. That's the finals. It'd be robbery, but I would not be surprised if they did that.
Look, that sounds phenomenal in fairy tale land. I'm gonna tell you this right now: the Knicks are not winning no damn championship if Josh Hart wins a Finals MVP. That means Brunson has to be shitty. Like he literally has to be shitty, bro. I don't see it.
I don't think Brunson's gonna do that, because look, I remember after game 1 of the Philly series, we came off from the logo and I was like, yeah, my bro shot like 35% from the field.
Yeah.
And y'all was
It
like,
was
he ain't
tough.
gonna do that. He ain't gonna do it again. The next game, he shot worse. So I was like, all right. Now think about that. And then he comes out and he does his Jalen Brunson. Whatever. But I am a little nervous. I'm just gonna transition away from the hypothetical, but I am a little nervous about the Knicks in terms of the players that they have and the minutes that they're running. Jalen Brunson, that injury that he had last night was a little tweaked, but he was virtually playing that game off of adrenaline in that second half when he checked back in. Josh Hart's playing 48 minutes a night every night. And you're going to end up running up against the Celtics team that's virtually on cruise control at this point. And then I don't know if they. I mean, Josh Hart playing 48 minutes. Like the Knicks already have the injury bug. Like they're virtually kind of depleted in that back half of their roster. Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle, now OG,
Yeah,
Leon. So like, that's what makes me nervous about this team. I love watching them because
I hear that.
I believe in what Jalen Brunson said after the game. Like they had this next man up mentality. I believe that. I see that on, you know what I'm saying. Dante DiVincenzo looked like Steph Curry last night, but there's times where I'm like, dude, Tibbs, bro, like this formula that you use as a coach has won you a lot of games in 10 years. That you like, look at Chicago. He's probably like I think he's like top three winningest coaches Chicago Bulls history.
Yeah.
Even though they hated his defense or hated his schemes that he ran in terms of leaving players out too late, he won a lot of games. So it's like the Doc Rivers effect. When you look at Doc Rivers, he's like top 10 in total wins as a coach. But
Mm-hmm.
he still will get shit on because everybody doesn't like certain adjustments that he doesn't make in pivotal moments where he's up 3-2 in a series, but whatever. So I think that the formula that Tibbs has for this team is scary, is really scary for me because Jalen Brunson, you're asking him to do so much. These 40-point games, like how much of a toll is it taking on him, especially if they're going to go into the conference finals against a Celtics team that's much fresher than them or will be much fresher than them. I
Uh-huh.
don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like this Knicks team is a good team. I
Mm-hmm.
think Brunson is playing out of his mind, crazy. Like he's having a very good postseason. I think you could almost argue he's been the best postseason performer in the playoffs with how he's picked up his game after those first two games.
Yeah.
I feel like with this Knicks team, though, what's going to hurt them is when they play against a team like the Celtics or the Wolves or the Nuggets, like a truly top tier team, I think they're going to have some issues because their depth only goes so far. OG just got hurt. He won't be playing in the very next game. And I think when Brunson sees a more serious defense that has more depth and has more rangy defenders to throw at him, that's going to really be the challenge. And also how they sustain themselves because offensively, they've been getting a lot of shot attempts because of the rebounds and the second chance points and the offensive rebounds. When you go up against a team that's flat out taller than you and larger than you, and you don't get those same opportunities, it's going to make you a worse team. I
Mm-hmm.
like this team though. I like the blueprint and foundation what the Knicks are. I feel like they're another piece away from being like a true contender. I still
Mm-hmm.
don't believe they are, but they're doing a great job so far in the Eastern Conference. And again, I had them beating the Sixers in the first round. I said if the Pacers get out, they're going to probably beat the Pacers too because the Pacers defense is pretty bad. So, they're on track. But to me, when this Knicks team runs into Boston, they can beat Boston off of the strength of what Brunson and their defense can do. But I still think a fully healthy Boston team with Tatum, Brown, Derek White, Drew Holiday, Porzingis, I still feel like they are going to be the favorites to get out of that series still.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think we can transition into the first. I guess we can transition into Boston a little bit more, just dive a little bit deeper. But
Yeah.
with Boston, it's like it's tricky because like we looked at Boston as the perennial favorites for the majority of the year. But the one thing that I've noticed with Boston over the last 5 to 6 years is that even when they look like the perennial favorites, or at least the perennial favorites to represent the Eastern Conference, in a situation like they have right now with the teams that they're facing off with, they can easily dispose of the Cavs the same way that they easily got out of the first round of this playoff. So it's like they they're in a better position than I can recall seeing them in the last few years. But the one issue that they always run into is themselves. I can't believe that I'm agreeing with Brandon in any way, shape, or form, but he's right. Tatum and Brown will choke. Or at least that's what you think about
Yeah.
when you think about the Celtics failing. Is them getting in their own way? Is them shooting a lot of threes and living and dying by it? Which you can do it if you're on fire. It's different. Like that one scary Sunday the Warriors had where they got 50 piece, but they were just on fire at 3:30 afternoon in the afternoon. So like, what are you going to do? But if you run up against a Minnesota team, like you said, that has more size, Not only that, but they got perimeter defenders that are ready to chomping at the bit to guard you. And they gonna see if Jalen Brown really got a left hand or not. Because apparently this season he said that he was putting that myth to bed. But if you got Gilgeous-Alexander or Jaden McDaniels on you, bro, like they're gonna make it tough for him. And then getting to the paint is gonna be virtually impossible if Rudy Gobert's there. So, like it's that's why I look at Minnesota and I'm like, this is all in a hypothetical finals matchup, of course. But even if I would think that that'd be the worst case scenario for Boston. They say they match up with the Thunder, different story because
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like it's a different story. You don't have that same defensive worry about them locking your shit up as much as you have to think about like, oh, we can attack them in certain points. If we want to put Jalen Brown on SGA, fine. Or Drew Holiday more than likely. But they have more pieces to withstand what the Thunder can bring to them than what they have to deal with what the Timberwolves have to bring to them. So it is what it is. So, and then like you said with the Knicks, it's like I think that the Knicks and the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals is going to end up happening. Now, a few of those games, Brunson's going to be able to get his. I still see that because at the end of the day, Jalen Brunson is like this Brunsanity run that he's on is
Brunsanity. Yeah,
that's what it is. Like he's just that damn good, and it's to a point where even last night where he got hurt, and then I'm sitting here thinking he about to sell my parlay, had him for 30 plus. He ends up with 29. And I'm like, okay. And I watched him in that entire second half virtually get whatever he wanted. TJ McConnell, Rick Carlisle did not put him back in the game for some reason in the fourth quarter, but TJ McConnell was the only person that could virtually stop him or at least irritate him, right? When he was spots. He didn't play the entire fourth quarter. So that's on Rick Carlisle. I don't care how many times you say or how many calls you look to review. Like, bro, you didn't put in the best guy that was locking up the best guy on the other team in the only minutes that you gave him. And he was getting to his spots. CJ had like 2 back-to-back mid-range pull-ups off of screens and just bottom of the net. Like his shot is ugly, but it goes in. He led all guards in percentage for field goals. So but I don't think that the Celtics are going to have much to worry about in terms of getting to the finals. But if it's Knicks, like, do you think how much percentage chance would you give the Knicks against the Celtics in a potential Eastern Conference Finals?
40.
40?
If the Knicks are healthy with OG and Brunson, I think that they can legitimately make that a tougher series. But I still think Boston's just a better team. Their execution, their 3-point shooting, Tatum and Brown in terms of their variance. I think they're just the Eastern Conference team to get out of the East.
Still. Yep. I like it. All right, so let's transition a little bit into what the title of the show says. Now, Jalen, of course, still isn't here, so we're just going to take over from here and just kind of chat. You can help us out. You know, you can be our 3rd, 4th, and 5th member. So, who are the new faces of the NBA outside of Luka and Jokic? Drop them in the chat. Let me know who y'all, or at least who y'all think will be presented as the new faces of the league. Now, for starters, Gifted, while the chat drops their comments, how many faces of the league do you think that there could be? Or matter of fact, how many faces from the 2010s, from this last generation? How many faces of the league are there? That generation.
I mean, well, there's only one face normally. Like,
right?
Normally it's only one guy. Then you have the other guys who are also pretty big in their own right, but they're not the face. In terms of guys who could be candidates, it would have to be Luka, Wemby, Anthony Edwards. Somebody. Luka, Edwards. Who else did I say?
Luka, Edwards,
Wemby. Yeah. To be honest, it's probably just those 3. I know a lot of people are going to say Jokic. Jokic will never be the face of the NBA, no matter how much he wins or how good he is, because he's not marketable. Face is more than just who's the best active player. It's charisma on top of trying to win basketball games. And I don't think people are ever going to collectively say Jokic is the face of the NBA, no matter what happens. And I like Jokic, right? I would put him in that conversation, but I just don't think that's going to ever happen. I
Yeah.
think Wemby is there because even though he is still a player that is, known as this French phenom, we've never seen something like him. So he has like this genuine mystique to him.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he's very well spoken, has excellent quotes, and more importantly, he's a hooper. Like he's crazy. He can hoop. Like he can change the direction of what the Spurs are as a franchise. So Wemby is definitely there. Anthony Edwards is 22 years old and has legitimate chance to go to the finals and maybe win a title this year at 22 years old. So he's got so much room to grow and get better. So, he's there. Luka is just a machine every single year. He doesn't really have many overall interviews, but he's a killer on the court. The shape is really what you question with Luka overall, but everything else he's got. I can hear people say Jason Tatum because he's still like 26 years old, so there's hope for him, but I just don't think don't think at his age I don't think he projects to be as good as these other players will be, in my mind.
Think that the only way that Jason Tatum is going to become the face of the league is if the Celtics become a dynasty. That's the only way. Because if you're winning, right, and then you talk about marketability, this nigga Jason Tatum was in Subway commercials. So he has that.
That's true.
His son is everybody knows who his son is. So it is what it is. But low-key, Tatum is like the Drake of the NBA, right? Like everybody you either love him or you hate him, but most people hate him. But everybody knows that like he has a kid and they know his kid. And yeah, like they both market their kids. So whatever. Ja Morant. I didn't hear that name.
Ja's a good name. I think Ja has a lot of league appeal, so I can see him there. But again, is he going to be the face over those other players, though?
No, and it's his fault why he's not going to be the face over those. Because look, the NBA is going to look at him like a damn hazard, like how David Stern was looking at Allen Iverson. Because you look at the other players that they have to market, there's a difference. Like if it was only Ja Morant as a guy that everybody was like, yeah, he's the surefire next up, right? And then Ja got in his own way a little bit, and then now we're looking at.
I don't think Ja ruined that for himself fully though. I think he can bounce back from it. I just think what hurts him is mainly his injuries and how many games he plays. Like this man, Anthony Edwards is playing 70 games a season with great quotes. He looks locked in all the time. But with Ja Morant, you kind of question that a little bit.
You question it, but also a large portion of the time that he missed was based off of what happened on those Instagram lives. So in that time, Anthony Edwards kind of was like, all right, bet. Ja's out, I'm in. Let me show y'all what I can do. Luka is like, I'm still here. Let me show y'all what I can still do. And then you have Victor Wembanyama that's like, I'm here. You will pay attention to me. Like
you will.
Like you will. So with Ja, it's like he had an opportunity, I feel like, and he still does have an opportunity. I'm not gonna say that his chances are like done. But the only way that he does that is if we get some Minnesota and Memphis playoff series, and then he's out playing Ant, and then now it's an Ant and Ja thing, and then they're gonna be able to market that. Two young, high-flying stars leading their teams, whatever. They're going to be able to market that. But in terms of faces of the league, is like I'm looking at it like a Mount Rushmore. So let's do that. Let's look at the last generation, our generation, Braun, Steph, KD, all of them. Look at that generation and give me a Mount Rushmore. Isn't it 4 people on Mount Rushmore?
Let's think. So from that generation, LeBron, Curry, KD would be the 3.
Yep.
And then the last person is who after those 3?
Who rounds out that final spot, chat, of that generation? I guess we could say 2010s.
Bron, Curry, KD. I can see Chris Paul, but it feels a bit wrong.
It feels wrong, but it feels a little bit right at the same time. But I was going to say maybe Kawhi or Harden. I don't know. Like Harden gave us some phenomenal offensive seasons. But Kawhi also gave us 2 finals MVPs in that stretch and gave us 2019 playoff Kawhi, which is still gives Sixers fans nightmares. It's not
Harden is a good pick.
I think Harden's a good pick. It's not going to be Russ. I'm sorry. It's not Russ. Harden I can see that I could get behind it, but I feel like it'll be Kawhi. I genuinely do.
It could be Kawhi too, to be honest,
Kawhi,
because
think about it. Kawhi beat LeBron in the finals and KD in the finals in that time in that decade. So it's and they're in the top three. So it's like, should we let him in? Should we let him in the club? Like, I don't know. But okay. So let's look at this next generation. You said three names already: Victor, Luka, and
Victor, Luka, Wemby, and also Anthony Edwards. I think those are the four probably.
did you say Victor, Luka, Wemby, and then Anthony Edwards?
I said Wemby twice, didn't I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Victor, Anthony Edwards, Luka, and the fourth guy. See, it's weird because I consider Jokic a part of this one. I don't think he's like
I do too. Yeah.
the next generation for real. So like that's why I wouldn't really be saying Jokic.
But Jokic is like 27, isn't he?
Yeah.
So it's like, is there because where's the cutoff? I guess in the age of the new generation. Because
Jokic is gonna still be elite for like a long time. I feel like.
Yeah. I feel like Jokic is in that tier of like I guess go-to faces, not the ones that are necessarily the most marketable, but like Jokic, Giannis, Joel, like maybe the Euro faces. I don't know. Like they're in their own tier. The new faces are more so focused on the younger guys that are that haven't proved themselves yet. I guess we'll say that, but they have the potential to prove themselves, right? So like Victor, of course, Luka, and then if you want, like, I'm fine with Ja, but like outside of that, I don't really know anybody else. Like Jason Tatum is I don't even know if Tatum is in that mix because like he's 26, so he's right there, like right behind, like right behind Jokic. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know. Chat, help us out if you can. But anyway,
maybe.
Jalen Brunson, where is he going to fall in this mix?
Would I put Brunson as the 4 over Ja Morant?
Ooh, now we getting spicy.
I'll be between Brunson, Ja Morant, or Trey.
So Duke. Okay, let's dissect this for a second because Duke is still stuck up on the
sure.
black square thing. Kawhi. The reason that I say Kawhi because I hear your points. As far as Russell Westbrook goes, no. Russ averaged a triple-double. Yes, he did. He did it 4 times. Yes, he did.
Insane.
In any of those times, he never made it past the second round, even with averaging close to a triple-double in certain spurts. But
wait, so like, are you saying playoffs matter for this?
In this situation, when we're talking about the decades, yeah, because we're talking about the 2010s, a time where when you look to who won the most, LeBron, Steph, KD, and Kawhi. In terms of winning the championship finals MVPs, I mean, literally, Kawhi Leonard was one of those players where we couldn't really dissect him as badly as we could James Harden, because in the regular season, Harden was phenomenal. Don't get me wrong, phenomenal. Like literally, he was doing historic shit in the regular season. But in the playoffs, it was the same story every time. Some people like to say he ran into the Warriors and leave it at that. But what about the San Antonio series, the San Antonio game in 2017, where he had like 12 turnovers in the elimination game and was a virtual no-show, right? Like there's moments outside. There's moments we didn't even make the playoffs with Houston. Like so for Kawhi, it's like we already knew what type of player Kawhi could be when he was healthy. And for the 2010s, he proved that in certain spurts, right? 2017 was really the first year that he actually started going down, and then it became an issue. But for him to come back from what Zaza Pachulia did to him and the disaster of what happened with his exit from San Antonio, and then to get traded to the Raptors and literally win the championship, albeit the injuries or what have you, that was one of the best playoff runs we've ever seen in that decade alone from what Kawhi Leonard was doing. So Harden in the postseason, he didn't give us none of that. He gave us great regular seasons for sure. So Joel Embiid better be in y'all's list for the decade of next year.
Nah. But I don't like it though, because what Harden did in Houston in terms of the way he elevated and moved the game forward, he was an elite regular season player for multiple years.
Elite.
Like beyond elite though. Like he literally changed this upcoming generation with the way he bended the rules, and how insane of an isolation scorer that he was. There's not many other players you can put in that caliber unless you bring up Kobe, MJ, like that. That's what he was doing in terms of isolation scoring all of his years in Houston, especially after D'Antoni came in. It was wild then.
So let me get this. So leaving with Brent. Brandon Durant choked every year in OKC. So did he choke in the 2012 finals, in his first finals, or was that the one where he averaged 30 on LeBron? And that was the one where Harden played the worst out of the big three.
Harden did play the worst
dog
in that one. That's
shit
true.
out of the big three. So what are we talking about, Brandon? In terms of them getting to their heights, if James Harden plays better, maybe the OKC Thunder don't get beaten 5.
But to be fair, the Harden was very good in the playoffs overall. He just wasn't great in the finals.
So I'm gonna give him credit where it's due, but that man shot terribly in that final series. Worse. That's true. So and that's not something that was just an anomaly. No, you can point to multiple playoff games. I've talked about it before. When you look at James Harden's averages for games, like the first 3 games of a series, and then you compare them to the last 5 games of a series, it is a drastic difference, and it just gets worse every single game. This man had 9 points in a game 7, back-to-back years for Philadelphia. So what are we talking about? Like, really, what are we talking about? Yeah, he ran into the Warriors. He also missed 10 of the 27 straight threes that the Rockets missed in that game 7. Yeah, he had a great look at the box score. It was great, but he was a main contributor to that. Him and Trevor Ariza going brick for brick in an elimination game that's something that has been given to James Harden. That was a monkey on his back that we've been waiting years and years for him to shake. Kawhi Leonard, on the other hand, we said if he's healthy, we know what he can do for us. He did it twice. So, and as the one-man show for the Raptors in 2019. But so I would say that. Now, I'm not going to lie. Harden, like I said before, if Harden was going to be in the list, I'm not saying, no, he doesn't deserve it. He's right there. Because, like I said, elite regular seasons. I was in awe of what I was seeing. Don't get me wrong. But if we're talking about the big dogs, the real big dogs, the difference makers, right? Positive difference makers. LeBron, Steph, KD, Kawhi. All in that decade. Harden, difference maker, negatively, usually, throughout that decade. Right? Difference maker in terms of, damn, if only you decided to show up and play like you played in the regular season today.
But like, I kind of feel weird about that still because we praise Kawhi for doing that, but for many regular seasons, Kawhi didn't have to play as hard as James Harden or as hard as these other players did. He got a chance to not play, rest up, and then play in the playoffs on better teams than both of those guys. But then we say he should be the 4th player. Like, I don't know if I respect that because I know how good of a player 2016 Kawhi was, right?
Yeah.
But after that, he gets hurt. He's kind of gone for 2 years because he misses the entire Spurs season. Then after that, he gets traded. Then he plays very well for the Raptors. Then he goes over to the Clippers. Low manages a couple, gets into the playoffs. They blow a 3-1 lead in the bubble. Like, there hasn't been much overall success that they will want in the Clippers. The furthest that they've gone was ironically when he wasn't playing. It was Paul George when they went to the West Conference Finals. In terms of like dominance, James Harden was a better player than Kawhi Leonard back then. When James Harden was his MVP self, no one was saying Kawhi Leonard was a better player than James Harden. No one. They were the only team to push them.
Nope, I remember hearing it. Let me tell you exactly why.
Who told you that?
Don't sit here and act like at that time, while James Harden, I'm talking like 2016, 2017.
MVP James Harden is what I'm talking about.
James Harden was crazy. But the same knock that they give Luka Doncic now for averaging more points damn near than MVP Harden was, think about it. Luka Doncic has been on a scoring tear in the regular season since he walked into the league. But the same knock that they give Luka Doncic and they say, oh, he's not better than Giannis, two-way. That's what it is. Kawhi was still looked at as the best perimeter two-way player in the game back then.
That's fine and all. But when Harden won the MVP, it was a different conversation. The way teams were guarding MVP James Harden was different than anything we had ever seen.
But that came at the latter end of the decade, and what it got us was nowhere. At the latter end of the decade, we walked away with Kawhi Leonard holding up the Larry O'Brien trophy.
At the latter end, okay, right.
We got the MVPs. We got the MVP, right? And like I said, phenomenal regular season. But playoffs, the same story happened again. And it's like, when you look at it, like, here's the thing. When people say the Warriors, right? He ran into the Warriors. Trust me, I understand that. I get that. But 2015, you could point to games in that series where Harden shit the bed.
I agree.
2016, they were an 8th seed. I think the Rockets were the 8th seed. I think I said they missed the playoffs, but they were the 8th seed. Got bounced up out of there real quick, so they didn't even have a chance then. 2017, what happened? The Spurs. 2018, 27 straight missed threes. 2019, Russell Westbrook is on the Rockets. So honestly, like, and they beat the Thunder. They beat the Thunder, Chris Paul's Thunder, in 7 games by a point. And James Harden shot 4 of like 18 in that game.
Okay, I remember that, but for the series, he was very good, and his defense was very good in that game. They won the game based off of what Russ did in that game and James Harden's defense. Realistically, my bigger point to you is, like, I know where you're going, but in terms of elite seasons, James Harden had more elite seasons than Kawhi Leonard did for the entire decade. That's not opinion.
You know what?
He had more overall elite seasons, and bigger than that. My bigger point is what James Harden was doing in Houston as the MVP candidate and the floor he had to raise. He was doing that shit every single game of the regular season. He was playing 78 games, 79 games. Kawhi Leonard wasn't asked to do that. And more importantly, those Spurs teams with Kawhi were better teams. It was more so built around that team dynamic. What made James Harden so electrifying is, damn, he's doing this with PJ Tucker, Trevor. He didn't really have any star help until Chris Paul came over. And that team was the only team that could really challenge the super team Warriors. So I want to give James Harden a lot of respect in that regard. He might not have the postseason success, but again, Kawhi's came at the end of the decade on a Raptors team that could afford for him to not play during the regular season because they were so good. That's the team that had literally gone to the semi-conference finals without him a year before. So they didn't need him for the regular season. Then they were an all-time defense with Kawhi during the entire postseason run, and then they won. But they beat an injured Golden State team, which we all know if Golden State is healthy, we're not gassing up that ship. We're not doing it, right? That wouldn't have been there. So I look at that as, okay, you were a very great player during that run for sure. But in terms of having to have an elite regular season and then having to have an elite playoffs to win, Kawhi didn't have to do any of that. And he was very good when he played. But my point is, for James Harden to be so ball dominant, but unlike Luka, play 82 games, 80 games at that pace, and then keep it up for at least a first round and then ball out and then lose some games in the playoffs. I don't think Kawhi Leonard was asked to do that. So that's why for me, when I look at it, I would still say James Harden, because at the time, I remember what the conversations were. People love Kawhi Leonard, but no one, when James Harden was at the best peak of his powers, was saying Kawhi was better than James Harden. They were all saying James Harden is the better player. They were criticizing James Harden for not getting it done in the playoffs, and rightfully so. They should have. But Kawhi Leonard was never looked at to be as better than those players until he won the championship, because then they were like, okay, he's the best player, because he was very good defensively. He was very good as an offensive player in spots. But what James Harden was as the offensive player, people said that was the best offensive player in the league, next to Steph Curry and next to LeBron James. He was in those conversations. Kawhi was never in those conversations.
Kawhi was in those conversations when we talk about peak playoffs. That's how I look at it. Peak Kawhi in the playoffs is better than peak Harden in the regular season. That's just how I look at it in terms of an unstoppable offensive.
Peak Kawhi in the playoffs.
Peak Kawhi in the playoffs. Yeah, I'm taking him. I'll take that. You want to know why? Because no one could. Nah. Peak Kawhi was not only giving you 30, but he was guarding Giannis. He was guarding the guy that they were looking at as the next face.
But he had the best defensive team for like the decade.
He was on the Spurs. He was on the Spurs doing his thing. We get that. But I'm saying peak Kawhi in 2019 was giving you 30 while locking up your best player. I would take that over a guy that I will give credit. I've said it before. James Harden is one of the greatest playmakers I've ever seen in my life. When his head's in the game. Sometimes he has some weird moments, but when his head's in the game, which is for the most part it is, one of the best playmakers I've ever seen in my life. Top 3 playmaker of our generation, in my opinion, because of his scoring prowess. But with Kawhi Leonard in 2019, that version of Kawhi was on unstoppable, getting through everything. Literally everything. 2017, James Harden, which I know we're not really talking about that one, but that's the James Harden where you're about 2 years into your new team. And I will give Harden credit for this as well. Going from the Oklahoma City Thunder and virtually getting your own team when you were a top 3 option on another team, that transitioning from that can be really hard for players. Really hard. What they did with James Harden in Houston was they built that team around him time and time again, year after year. Only increasing as the years go on, pretty much. They had Dwight. They started it with the Dwight Howard when he was still useful, I guess, in a starting position. And then they went on to Chris Paul eventually. Then they went on to Russell Westbrook. They gave Harden everything that he asked for, and it ultimately ended up not being enough year after year. But for the majority of that stretch of time, the common denominator for why it wasn't enough was, if it wasn't the Warriors, was James Harden. That's my point. So for as great as the regular season was for him, which it was, you can say the same thing about Joel Embiid last year or this year when he was literally averaging more points than minutes and shooting at the free throw line better than any center all time in his position as a number 1 option. So that was mesmerizing. But when we get to the postseason, what happens? The same thing that we didn't want to happen, but we knew was kind of going to happen. He fizzles out. He's hurt. He has Bell's palsy, whatever. So I feel like James Harden, Joel Embiid literally is like a big-ass version of James Harden, low-key. Great regular season. We've never seen it before. Generational cooking. Postseason, flames out. So once again, though, I will say, if you do have Harden at your 4 spot, which I think Gifted you do
I probably do.
Not mad at it. I understand every point that you just said, and I see why you see that. For me, I just think Kawhi Leonard and what he was doing with not only the San Antonio Spurs transitioning, because literally I just think about the fact that he was drafted in 2011. The tail end of the Spurs dynasty ended up falling at his feet in a way in that 2014 series, just off his defensive pressure that he was giving LeBron. And they just looked at him and they were like, yo, this kid is the future. Now it fizzles out terribly. But for him to go to that Raptors team and end up Freddie VanVleet was doing his thing, Pascal was doing his thing a little bit, but Kawhi was the head of that engine. The head of that engine. What did he do on the Spurs? Won Finals MVP in his 3rd year for a reason. There wasn't no Iguodala shit. You could see why he won it. So don't give me that. But I'll say Kawhi, you say James Harden, we'll leave it at that. All right, so it looks like it's going to be just me and Gifted for the entirety of this show.
That's hilarious.
Which is great. I'm having a great time. We're actually not we have to see. Think about how many times we've talked about LeBron.
Yeah.
Not that much. Now think if
not
Jalen
that much, no.
Now think if Jalen was here. That's crazy.
It would be up for that. Yeah.
It is what it is. Bro, Brandon, first of all, get my name right before I mute you dork. And second of all, stop talking. All right? Stop talking. You went off of what we were even talking about. And the chat had to correct you to get you back on course. It takes some time. Calm down. All right. And remember who your daddy is. Now, anyway, Boston and the Cavs is about to kick off, but the Thunder and the Mavericks is the one that I want to talk about because we already talked about the Celtics and the Cavs earlier. So, Mavericks and Thunder, who you got tonight? You think Thunder taking a 2-0 lead?
Thunder.
Right.
Yeah. I got Thunder 2-0. I think this Thunder team is a legit team, man. And again, I'll keep saying it. I love what the Mavs could be, but with no Maxi Kleber, I think that team's done, man. I do.
Yeah.
I think they lost an important defender who can space the floor. I have OKC winning tonight, man. I just do. I think they are a very, very solid team. And I thought they played kind of sloppy, and they still won by a decent margin. I think they're really going to hoop tonight. We got to see it, of course, but I think we got it tonight, personally.
Man, I don't know. I'm kind of split because a part of me thinks that we're going to get, like, this will be the game where Luka's like, let me remind. This will be, because you got to think about it like this, too. The fun thing about it is that with Jokic winning MVP, we could see a situation tonight where Shai and Luka are both out to prove themselves, to prove why they should have won it, make their cases, if you will, right?
Yeah.
They have a because both of them were the ones that were snubbed. They were in the top 3. So I think maybe Luka goes out there and gives us a 40-point triple-double. Or like Gifted said, maybe because Maxi Kleber not being there, the Mavs offense kind of taking a hit, or at least that's that system or game plan. And then you look at the Thunder, and all they do is just bark and bark after they win a game. But you see the chemistry, and you see what it is that they have that kind of gives them that it factor, right? They all lock in and kind of surround themselves around Shai a little bit, but I don't know. I think Shai is probably going to give us another 31. Hopefully, that's at least what I'm gonna put my money on.
Probably, yeah.
But I don't know. I don't see Luka. I don't see Luka messing up.
I think Luka isn't healthy. I think he has to get like his knee directly in order to have
Yeah,
some overall success and whatnot. But I mean, I think Luka still has his best basketball yet to be played. So, we could see that tonight. But again, is that margin going to be enough to beat this fully loaded OKC team who has so many guys that can come in and contribute? That's the question, really.
it is. The question is, why am I getting hate from Cat's little brother? That's what's happening right now. Lazarus. So we got a Brandon Kit Kats and we got a Lazarus Creed.
That's a hard name. Lazarus Creed is hard.
That's hard if that nigga's a boxer, but I guarantee you he's not. So
oh wow,
it is. I don't like your name. Let's move forward. Let's move forward. You're gonna get used to shit. One thing about ZZ is he never plays, never has, not on PC, nowhere else. All right, so let me ask this question. Be real with me. Friday, tomorrow, we got the Nuggets and the T-Wolves.
I'm going to that game tomorrow, y'all.
You are going to the game. You are, and you gotta film some side of content, bro. You got.
I'll be filming something for sure. Yeah.
You gotta. I gotta, and hopefully the game's close. I hope it is, and we get like another game winner situation. But yes, sir.
Right there.
So let me ask y'all this question. Chat, this is open to you, even Lazarus the second. Tomorrow night, it's a must-win game for Denver.
Must win.
Think it is. There's no option. If they go down 3-0, good lord.
It's a wrap. They go down 3-0. We know that.
So tomorrow it's a big game. Do y'all think that there is still some sense of the championship DNA, albeit it's only been barely a year, but the championship DNA in that core to shape up, go into the opposition's territory and get a game, or the Wolves gonna go out there and start cracking jokes and smiling at the people that they're guarding, like Jamal Murray. The fact that they can't get past them. What you think, Gifty?
Well, real quick, I want to highlight this comment because I love to pinpoint when Brandon don't know at all what he's talking about because he's a dick rider. Before this show, I was saying repeatedly that the Minnesota Timberwolves are a team to be respected for the regular season. I said if Ant can make that playmaker jump, they can be a legitimate title threat, but I wasn't sure. So I respected Denver, and Denver was my preseason pick. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I was not sure about how this team would look, but I did think Minnesota was going to be a top 3 seed. They accomplished that. They swept the Suns. And I said coming into this series, my pick was Wolves in 6, primarily because of the defense, their length, all of that. I thought that could really bother them, and how specifically Jamal Murray isn't healthy right now with his calf strain. I didn't think they would get 2 games in Denver because Denver is like the hardest place in the NBA to win, especially in the playoffs. It's very hard to do that overall. And yet, not only did they get 2 games, Gobert had a child. So he was not available for game 2, and they blew him out by more than they did in game 1. So for me, to win both of those games and go back home, I think this is a huge day for Minnesota basketball. The reason why I chose to go to game 3 is because this is a do or die game, right? Like you said, if the Denver Nuggets lose this game, they're going down 3-0 in the series. And as y'all know, you go down 3-0, it's a wrap. I think the closest we've seen a team take it is maybe 7 games, and even then they don't win, right? You don't win the series if you go down 3-0. So to me, Jokic is going to have to make better decisions. Defensively, he's been dog shit the entire playoffs, respectfully. And I love Jokic, but he's looked like a much worse defender than he was last year. He's going to have to step that up. But more importantly, they're going to have to get contributions from the other guys. I think Reggie Jackson is still out. They've completely taken Aaron Gordon out of the series. They need Jamal Murray to get it going with Jokic because that two-man game opens up everything. But if they're not able to do that, they're going to lose because I'm telling you, Nas Reed, Gobert's back now. Cat has been great in the series so far. If they keep that stuff up, they can lose. So I still think, though, this Denver team, to me, I respect them so much because beyond a championship, they're a core that have been together for multiple years. They faced adversity multiple times. Again, coming back from down 3-1 twice back-to-back series is not something any other team can do but Denver, because I've never seen any other team come back from down 3-1 twice in back-to-back series. I've never seen that before. I think Denver can absolutely steal game 3 and then potentially make this a real series. But again, I think the Wolves just have the better personnel. Their defense has been legitimate, and Anthony Edwards has been a superstar all playoffs long. That's how he's played, like a superstar. So I'm still going to lean Wolves, to be honest. I think the Wolves see blood in the water, and I think they go for it.
There's no way that Jalen pulls up with 15 minutes left.
Hey, just like math class, baby. Come in last minute.
That's actually hilarious, by the way.
Hey, university, you don't have to go. You don't have to watch the lecture. You just pull up sometimes. Get the lecture online.
You ain't miss much, you know. But I will say I found this little tidbit right here. Draymond Green was asked, I think, on his show, has Jalen Brunson become the best point guard in the NBA with his playoff performances so far?
I mean, that's
Draymond said, F no, Steph Curry's still in the NBA.
Yeah, look, you can make a case that Jalen Brunson has played better this season. You can make a case. I don't even know if that's true or not. You'd have to look. You can make a case. What he's done in the playoffs is amazing, though. Again, the scoring, what he's doing. People don't realize, like, when he's off the court, like, you look at that Knicks offense. It's like they made shots last game, but it wasn't pretty. It was like, Josh Hart, sure, he can kind of, penetrate the defense, get in there, but his passing, decision making is a little out there. OG was making shots that's inconsistent. Dante, the shot was fine, but even Dante, he's not really that good in terms of running the offense, creating opportunities for his teammates. Jalen Brunson is really kind of the only guy. For him to do that at his size remains amazing. So, do I say he's better than Steph Curry? No. Is he coming? Is there a conversation to be had maybe next season if he continues this as Steph gets older? You can have the conversation then.
Gifted. Okay. So for me, I just thought about it when the question popped in my head. I was like, you know what? For what Jalen just said, even like the identity of the team looks lost when Brunson's out on the floor. Imagine if Steph Curry was there. The Gifted, you're muted, by the way. Imagine if Steph Curry is on the floor. I was like, I don't know. But
I did not know that. My bad. Yeah.
Imagine if Steph was on the Knicks. Would the offense still suffer if Steph wasn't on the court? Like, yeah. Would the offense look different with Steph on the floor? Probably. Now, what Draymond Green said was essentially pump the brakes. He's playing great. He's the best point guard in the playoffs right now. Yeah, he's playing great. But as far as like best point guard in the league goes, going into next season or whatever, he had a great year. Don't get me wrong, but nah, give me Steph Curry. Brandon, stop taking drugs, bro. Please. God. And I don't know who told you.
We stayed talking basketball. We stayed talking hoops.
I don't know who told you that using much in a sentence is a good idea, but only use it when it's true. Brunson's a much better defender. Yeah.
I think they're both actually negatives on defense. Brunson's not.
And Steph Curry, I'll take him over Jalen Brunson on defense. Sorry. It is what it is. I have seen Steph Curry out the game winning blocks in his – like, what are we talking about? Stop. God, it's so much drugs. Anyway.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the Brunson gas is there, but he's performed all postseason long. My only problem with people is, okay, you beat a Sixers team that had a not all the way healthy Joel Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey consistently gave y'all baskets. Also, game 2, where quite literally they fouled the shit out of him, no call. That would have been a win. You then move on to play a Pacers team that has the shittiest playoff defense this year of any team to make it this far into the postseason. Brunson and the Knicks aren't playing very tough competition compared to what's in the Western Conference. They don't have to play Denver or Minnesota right now. Their biggest competition is going to be Boston. So I'll pump the brakes on just how good Brunson is now. People are very quick to say X player is top 5 without having seen it for a strong sample size. I doubt a lot of people had him top 15 entering the season. He was great last year. But again, he is very good at basketball. I do think Brunson has had one of the best seasons this year. So he's definitely in those talks. But I mean, bro, where he's going to land to me really depends on how he performs against an elite defense this year. Last year, he was on fire. He was great that playoffs. All playoffs long, he's been terrific. I think he's probably been the best postseason guy so far based off his performances this year. That's how much I like Brunson. But in terms of where he's going to rank, the consistency of that is really going to put him on a different place if he keeps that up.
We do this every postseason. Every postseason, there's a player that kind of does very well, takes a bit of not even a huge up in the regular season, but just plays well, takes his team further than expected, you could say. And you'd be like, oh, is he top 5? Jamal Murray, Darren Fox, even though lost in the first round, it was a good series that he had. But like, is he a top 5, top 3 point guard in the league, whatever the case may be? Jimmy Butler situation when he was rising. This year, we're not having those conversations. Is he top 10 in the league? No, So every playoffs, it tends to happen. He did struggle too in the Philly series. Like he was shooting. Remember the first 3 games, he was shooting like 25% from the field. He was terrible. So I mean, again, has he played phenomenal for the most part? Yes. Is he kind of carrying that offense, creating for his teammates? Yes. But it takes more than one great or even one great postseason run or 2 great seasons to pass a guy in Steph, who has given us a decade now of elite play almost. Right?
Yeah. Okay, Brandon, pump the brakes, bro, please.
That's another one, man. I swear to God, when we do this show on Tuesday and Denver is back up 2-2, it's gonna be a whole different conversation.
Well, yeah, that's the thing I'll say. That's why I say pump the brakes, because you're talking about Jokic has been trash against the only good defense he's played in the play, and the sample size is 2 games, Brandon. Mm-hmm. You kitty cat munchkin. It is 2 times. It is literally two games that we have seen in this time frame. 2, right? So you don't think that Nikola Jokic is going to figure, same guy that dropped buckets on this number 1 defense, the same number 1 defense that Joel Embiid had 50 on earlier this year, right? Like, there are times in which a player is getting Jalen Brunson, the first 2 games of the Philadelphia series, shot like 20% from the field. But then every game after that, it was 30 plus, multiple 40 pieces, yada, yada, yada. So get it together, please, Brandon. Jokic is not Embiid. You're right. But you got it flipped. Embiid is not Jokic because Embiid hasn't made it to a conference finals. But it is what it is. It is what it is.
I've never seen a narrative shift from a player so quick in my life, especially a guy who's won a championship, 3 MVPs in 4 years, which puts him in competition.
And then Brandon looks at him and he's like, but I want the other guy with the Bell's palsy and the torn LCL and PCL, because he's the better scorer in the regular season. He put you remember when he put 47 on Jokic's head? That's Brandon. You remember when he put that 47 on his head? But I don't remember seeing the ring in his finger. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's just crazy how the playoffs just change so many narratives. Like, someone could have
a
great season, a great 2-3 season of such. One bad playoff series or one down playoff series, which again happens to literally every player in NBA history. Every player, whether it's LeBron, Michael, Kareem, Kobe, every player has had bad stretches in the postseason where they've shot, 40% or less, where the case may be, bad shooting night, bad free throw, whatever it is, just a bad game. It happens. But
it is what it is. It is what
Denver comes back to win this series, then the whole Anthony Edwards pump the brakes on next. You know what I mean? Like, that conversation would be crazy.
I just feel like the conversation with Jokic, I mean, I think it's fair to assess how many elite defenses that he's played.
That's fair, yeah. And
but at the end of the day, in the Western Conference, the years that he's been playing, he's played against pretty good defenses. The 2020 Lakers defense was a good defense. He was very, very young back then. He wasn't what he was now, right? Even the Heat defense in the finals, that was a good defense. Jokic broke that shit because he's Jokic. Like, that happens. But he's never played a team like the Wolves that have the size on the interior and the perimeter. This playoff team could have like a all-time defense just based off like their role players and how good from top to bottom their roster is with two-way players. They have guys that can come in and be positives on both ends of the ball. Most teams have good defensive players that can't play that much because they can't shoot, but they have guys who can play defense and shoot all throughout the roster. That's what makes them different and why they're a different matchup for Jokic than any other team he's played before. So him not playing too well makes sense. Also, they're actually pressuring Jokic defensively. A lot of those other teams couldn't really do that consistently. Even with the Lakers, they didn't have guys that could consistently do that on an over-to-over basis for a full 4 quarters. They have that. And they have a shooting big who can make Jokic have to guard in space at times, which can, also bring him out of the paint more. So they have different options.
Yeah, I agree. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up the show early because my computer's about to die. So this has been a great episode. Jalen came in for the last 7 minutes of it, but it is what it is.
Coming in with the fire still.
Yep. Jalen, I guess we can end on one question. Let me think. Did you think that Nikola Jokic deserved MVP?
Oh, without a doubt, 100%. I thought he was the most impactful player for his team this year too. Like him on versus off the court, huge. The numbers, the advanced numbers. Shout out Vorp. Just all the advanced numbers love. They love Jokic. It's one of the things. Look, and I understand the rationale for SGA. 30. I think what the stat was, the first 30-point scorer with the number 1 seed in their conference, not to get an MVP since like 1970 or whatever it was, something along those lines, right? Mm-hmm. And I get it. If this was 2000, he fits the criteria of best player on number 1 seeded team with those statistics. Makes sense. It's just with Jokic, they had the same record. It was tiebreak. They had the same record. So that 1-2, it doesn't really, that 1 seed, it's like, it's okay. They still have the same record, right? It's not like one team won 65 games, another team won 50.
Right.
The same amount of games, right? So the whole number 1 seed thing is a little, I think, being pushed, and not people are looking at the wins and losses. And the Jokic, just kind of the historical numbers, right? Being averaging close to a triple-double with a number 2 seed. I get it. And a little bit, I think, is also last year, they felt like he deserved it. Maybe they gave him one this year. But I will say this, I don't think he's winning another one. I don't think they're giving another one.
Yeah, that's the question I should have asked you, Gifted. Do you think he's going to win another one? He's 27.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy. I think Jokic is elite enough to where he can produce at this level for like the next 5 to 6 overall seasons because his play style doesn't use a ton of physicality. More than anything, on a year-to-year basis, he's going to be durable. So he's going to play the games he needs to qualify. And I think that Denver is not going to become like terribly bad next year either. So it's possible. A 4th one could be there for Jokic.
Yeah. I just think MVP players are very conscious of kind of these all-time things of who has how many MVPs.
Yeah.
It's just very hard for players to win more than 3. He'll have MVP level seasons, but again, especially with the amount of young talent, they're going to want to give Anthony Edwards 1 or 2. They're going to want to give Luka 1 or 2. Tatum's probably going to sneak one in there before it's all said and done. You know what I mean? SGA, if I mentioned, like, there's a lot of guys who I think they want to give it to as kind of the next core of the league and kind of prop them up too. And again, we just seen it before. He's going to have MVP level season. It's like Giannis. Yeah. I don't know if Giannis might even sneak one more into if the Bucks have a great season. But he's a guy that gets overlooked all the time, right? Just because he won 2, and after that, it's like, all right, you get used to their dominance, and you kind of battle yourself. Like, how much better can Jokic statistically improve based on numbers he's given already? You know what I mean? If he just plays the same level, it's kind of like, all right, we've seen it before. They're not going to be inclined to give it to him versus a player who maybe kind of takes a little bit of a jump or kind of comes out of nowhere. Because we know the MVP voting is like a lot of narrative does go into it, right? What's trending at the time.
I will say too, like Jokic is going to win another one, and it's kind of unfortunate, but fortunate for him, I guess, at the same time. But it's unfortunate because he doesn't.
Embiid should win another one.
Embiid is probably going to win another one. I don't see like
he'd be my favorite for next year off the bat.
I wouldn't even be surprised, but
health. All that matters is that health.
That's it. Like
durability.
It's just like if a healthy Joel, because he's got months to get healthy and gear up until October. So whatever Joel gives us from the start of October, whatever the date is for the first regular season game next year, if he's healthy, he's probably going to do something close to what we saw. I mean, the fouls aren't going to not keep happening. They're going to keep fouling them, especially in the regular season where the whistle's going to be lighter. So he's going to average over 30 and probably end up leading the league in scoring again for multiple. Like, Joel's a perennial scoring leader in the regular season at this point. Like it's just like you can look and point to the free throws. You can look and point to the fact that literally in the regular season, this man has given us some master classes, and you're just like, damn. But for Nikola Jokic, like Gifted said, I don't see the Denver Nuggets falling off anytime soon to a point of like out of that top 3 contention spot. I honestly think if they don't win it this year, they'll go out and look to see if they can get some of those.
I still forgot Wemby's going to win 3 probably or 4.
Oh, but we got to wait till the Spurs get him some damn competent teammates. But
hey, that can happen a lot faster than we think.
Think about it too. Think about it too. Luka still needs one. They're going
to need a couple.
Yeah, because you got to think going into the last like probably 4 seasons, Luka's been perennial MVP candidate, 100%. Preseason favorite type shit. Everybody's like, oh yeah, it's gonna be Luka. And I'd be falling into the trap too, thinking like, oh yeah, this might be the year.
Yeah.
And then it's not, and then it's like, oh damn,
a big game for him.
Here come Nikola Jokic, like oh, here comes Jason Tatum and the Celtics winning 64 games or whatever. But Luka's out there putting up 35 points, damn near triple doubles himself. So, and then SGA and the Thunder come out the cut, young as hell, and winning a lot of games. They haven't lost in a month.
I think the next 5 years, your MVP should be Luka, SGA, stick one in there. I think Victor probably gets one within 5 years.
Yeah,
and then someone like Tatum or someone. Yeah. So yeah, if Jokic doesn't win, I'm not shocked. And Embiid is still in there. Like, it's a lot of guys in the next 5 years.
Gotta win games, gotta be healthy. That's what you need to do.
Yeah. All right. We about to head out. He said, "Here we go, favorite Luka." Yeah, that's what they're gonna do. The Masters
rock with him.
Start of next season, they will say Luka Doncic is gonna win this year because that's the one that they say gets snubbed the most, even though he was the 5 seed. But it is what it is. We're about to wrap up the show. This has been great. Jalen, Gifted, give your final goodbyes. I will do the same after. Go ahead.
Yeah. Listen, man. Make sure to follow us. We'll be back. I am going to Minnesota game tomorrow, so that should be a fun time. But tap in with me. Gifted Hoops on YouTube. I just made a new channel where I'll do everything not basketball. I'll be breaking down every individual diss track that's dropped so far with the Drake and Kendrick stuff.
Yes,
you can find that at Everything Gifted on YouTube. Appreciate y'all. And on playback, I go by Gifted Hoops as well. So that's where you can find me. Gifted Hoops, everything for me.
Yes, sir. Jalen,
what I gotta say is, it's never the right time to say goodbye, but you know that we gotta go our separate ways until Sunday.
That's like LeBron in the playoffs this year. Anyway,
that's a Chris Brown song.
I know it is. Just say goodbye.
Say goodbye. Classic to this day.
Classic, bro. Classic.
That's the best song to me to this day.
Last thing I gotta say is BBL Drizzy. You know what I'm saying? BBL Drizzy. Yes, sir. Anyway,
14 number 1 songs and 300 Billboard entries, 77 top 10s. That's the most in history. Bye.
All right, y'all. Have a good one. Have a good one, people. Appreciate you.